What's your relationship like with the voice inside your head? I was going to say that.
I can talk to myself. It's like having a conversation.
So an inner voice is basically us listening to ourselves thinking. It's just us tuning into our own voices, basically our own thought processes.
The most up-to-date research suggests most people have an inner monologue, sometimes, but only half of us hear it frequently.
Do you have an inner voice?
I would say sometimes, yeah.
I do have an inner voice, yes.
Yes. When I play sports, yes.
Our inner voice, sometimes a whole cast of them, often takes on the role of spelling out options, narrating day-to-day behaviour and making decisions.
What does it say to you? What kind of things? What does it sound like?
It's very simple, just like step forward.
Gotta get it done, whatever my goals are.
Sometimes about what you're planning for the day.
It's quite impulsive. I feel like when you actually start focusing on what it's saying, it kind of skews it a little bit, so it's quite hard to tell. You better not muck up.
I think many of us would be familiar with what's sometimes called the constant critic. It's the way we've been raised, it's the beliefs that we have about ourselves. They're often negative because it's trying to get you to change and shape and be a bit better. And taken to its extreme, it can have quite an effect on our anxiety and our mood.
So, what can you do if your inner critic turns toxic?
It used to be negative, but I've trained myself to now be positive.
I think it's more about noticing that it's there, but not necessarily believing it. And I think there's an aspect of being able to weigh up what you are saying to yourself in your head and say, hey, is that actually right? Sometimes it will be, sometimes it won't. I think the trick is not believing that it's the gospel truth just because you've said it to yourself in your head.
And some people say they have no inner voice at all. I got nothing. Useful.
I don't think I have one.
No inner voice, yeah.
It was always thought that everybody had one, an inner voice, but some recent research has highlighted that some people say, look, I just don't have anything. Those people that do talk about being able to think about themselves in a different way, like they might see it more as in pictures or in movies or that kind of thing, so perhaps more visual than hearing.
What do you think of people who say they don't have an inner voice? Can you, fathom that?
No, I think we all have, but whether we choose to listen to it or not is probably part of it.
Hi, welcome to the Project on Friday night. Nadine Higgins is with us tonight. And keep it going for Kate Roger. And we have been talking about little else all afternoon, right?
This has been such a conversation point.
And it started with a dinner I had about a week ago. I was out with a friend, and he said to me, just making conversation, he said, did you know, Jesse, there's some people who don't have an inner voice? And I said, what do you mean, inner voice? And he said, oh, God, you're one of them. And ever since then, I've been asking you guys, do you have something in there going?
Yeah, I do. I sort of have several. One, because I was trying to find a way that you might click and have this, because when I'm on a treadmill at the gym, I have a commentary team commenting on how well I'm doing. Yeah. And they'll be going, he looks like he's going to set the record, but if I'm having a bad day, I'll say, well, he's just come back from injury. It's amazing he's running it all.
I'm kind of jealous because my inner voice is kind of a bitch. She's mean. She is you can't sit with us mean girls, mean. No. And she will sometimes interrupt me when I'm in the middle of things, being like, what are you talking about? You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So suddenly you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, you do argue with your... Because I argue with my inner voice. It's normally I'll be standing in front of someone and all the things I really want to say to that person, it's going on inside my head so they don't actually come out of my mouth. It's a safety measure,
The most surprising thing out of all of this is that neither of us had thought there was another way to think until now.
That's it. Yeah. Because you're weird.
So wait, do you see, is he just crickets in there or what's happening?
Just sit there and just look around. Love to know what's going on in your head, by the way. Head onto our Facebook page and tell us your experience.